Okay, are you going to start now? And I have to wait for six cuckoos. You see the cuckoo clock? Are you done now? I started teaching art at ISB about 30 years ago. I was the art teacher. I think there was one other person on the middle school level. And coming here was amazing because I was so burnt out in America and I could never have the kind of classroom that I generated and made and invented here at ISB. In my art program, I had the kids doing a lot of different things. They were welding and working with plaster and painting and drawing. I spent a lot of time on painting and drawing, love it. And then as I moved around Bangkok, I had a chopper motorcycle and I explored every little soy. That's wonderful about this country. It's truly the land of the free. Can you imagine any store or shop you could walk in, and maybe it's just because I'm a foreigner, but the Thai craftsman would just let me stay as long as I wanted. I spent a lot of time in gold shops, and I got the idea to have a jewelry component to my art elective at International School Bangkok. And I thought this would be really cool. And then as I kept thinking about it and developing the idea, I introduced it into my regular art program. I think in those days I just gave the kid a piece of brass or copper that I sheared up, and I had them clean it and do a design, maybe two-dimensionally, and cut out some areas so they had a negative positive relationship going as the elements in a piece of art jewelry. The kids loved it. They work with jewelry saws for the first time. You can work to develop really good finesse. You can work for a year with a jewelry saw just to learn how to cut really well. So I started gathering up tools, mostly inexpensive ones. And that's one of the things that Bangkok is, and China is a paradise for tools. And not the greatest tools in the world, but tools that will last a long, long time. So with my budget here, which was amazing at ISB, the International School Bangkok, it was a very high-paying job, and the supplies were plentiful. You had ample budget to expand your program in any direction you wanted to go. And I wanted to have a wonderful jewelry program. I got the idea to buy goldsmith benches, and I located many stores that sold them. So I bought 20 benches, and it began. I started a jewelry elective about now 30 years ago at International School Bangkok. And with that elective, I also started another elective called Industrial Design. A shop teacher, a good friend of mine, and a really smart guy named Tom Nevins was leaving, and he bequeathed me, he left me his shop and wonderful machines and tools, hand tools, vintage hand tools that would last another 200 years. So we sharpened all the plane blades and we did a lot of woodworking. And I started a class called Industrial Design. In those days, there wasn't all this red tape and starting a class and rating goals and all this nonsense. They gave me the freedom to do it and the trust, and it was wonderful. And I had a classroom like no other at ISB, and that never was before at ISB. I had an industrial design class and a jewelry class. And in the jewelry class, when the kids were working, sitting at their own little workbench with all their wonderful tools, they really valued the tools, and I showed them how to keep their pliers right and clean it and all their files. And the treatment of tools is amply important, so maintenance was part of the class. And then they're working on this precious piece of metal. We turned it over to silver. I worked with pure silver. And in those days, silver was very economical to buy, but still, I mean, an expensive, precious metal. And I always told the kids that don't believe it's silver, believe that it's pure gold, and that little bit I just gave you is $800 US. So the kids planned and they learned to draw, and we had a component to the class for 2 weeks of nothing but showing kids how to get beautiful values and draw three-dimensionally. We taught them a sort of a perspective that you could use when you drew jewelry, so you could fully realize the piece in 3 dimensions. And I got spectacular drawings, and as a result of the drawings, the plans, the kids fabricated amazing jewelry. In that class, it got so popular, the kids told other kids of the success story and told them how you would just get an A in the class. I hated grading. It was destructive to the creative process. So most kids in my class got very high grades, and then the other thing that I had to do in those days is write a lot of comments, which to me was a lot of bullshit. It wasn't important. It was much more important to have kids get this experience. And you could hear a pin drop. I was so amazed by what happened to the jewelry class and the amount of focus I got and concentration from the kids during that, in those days, I think it was an 80-minute period. I went out into the halls and I was just looking for people to tell about it. I was so bloody excited that I had thought of a class and had a class going with so much enthusiasm from the students and the children in the class. And I would run out in the halls, and any administrator passing, I grab them by the hand and drag them into my classroom, and I said, look at this. This is what learning really is, you know? And I said, this is one of the cloud moments, one of the beauty moments of what school could become, because the kids are working with intrinsic goals. What they're making is for somebody they love, whether it's a grandmother or a girlfriend or a boyfriend. And they're thoughtful, and the work is so meaningful, and it's so precious, and the scale is so small that they're working with every bit of their nervous system to create a work of art. And the work of art is doable because it's only 1 inch across or within a small scale. And when you see these kids working with magnifiers on their head and challenging their nervous system basically and developing finesse with tools, this is what this class could become and was becoming. And it became, I had a waiting list of kids to get in my classes over the years. And for 25 years those classes went on. And the reason I'm telling this story is that something just happened to me that only happened about 4 times. Kids have coming back to me after they're 44 years old or 41 years old. And I just have this student now who just had an experience with me. His name is Sai. He made a ring. He's 40 years old. And it's so exciting for me to see the persona of a person I had in high school and see them fully developed, and they have went through the pinball machine of life and bumped off all the things that can happen to you in the pinball machine of life. So they've been married, they have children, they're from all walks of life and divorced or whatever, and they've had sickness, they've had battles with everything. But this young guy, I remember him in my class. I remember this dolphin that he made in my class, and how beautiful it was. And I remember his intensity in class. That's what I remember most about students. Sai was in my class 21 years ago at ISB.
Yeah.
And so I don't have any recollection at time, and I said, well, how old are you now, you know? And I said, you must be, oh, then I had to think about it, and I said, he's over 40. Are you, how old are you now?
I'm almost 41. I'll be 41 this year.
41 years old, and you had me 21 years ago
at
when
I was
ISB.
17, yeah.
And what did you like about the class?
Just the whole experience about, like, you know, playing with fire, melting the metal.
Fire is exciting,
It's
right?
very exciting. Right. Hammering things.
It's
and
a little bit as romantic as Lord of the Rings, isn't it?
Even
like
more. Even more.
Wow.
Yeah, because I was a dragon now.
Basically, when people take this class, they go back 400 years. I mean, this has been going on for 4,000 years, right back to the Egyptians.
Yeah.
And you're working with precious metal. And that you never expect to do anything like that in high school.
Or even as an adult, like.
Yeah, I tried to tell the school how extraordinary this course is. Number one, you're working with scale that you've never worked on.
Mhm.
You're working on less than a half an inch
Yeah.
at a time, right?
Yeah.
And it was challenging because your whole nervous system, you're really starting to see what you can do on a tiny scale, right?
Yeah.
So even if you were going to, I'm preaching now, but even if you were going to become a doctor, like a surgeon, this experience would really give you
An edge.
an insight into what the kind of delicate, fine stuff that you could be doing with your beautiful hands. And you know what I noticed about most teenagers? They're born with these things, right? But they're not developed. They're not really developed. And it's amazing how much you can develop them. And I have 8th graders doing this. So Sai was in my class,
Yeah.
and the experience was
Wonderful. And
so. This is Sai's uncle,
Hi, this is Tavi.
Tevi. And Tevi, what was it like for you today?
Oh,
Did you
it
get
was
any insight
wonderful.
into this?
It's a wonderful experience to work with your hands. You know, like my daily work is all computer, but it's a good experience for me to work with you, Jerry. You are the master of the jewelry making. To see how you connect with your hand, with your tools, and the way you lead us step by step how to create this wonderful things.
Can I show you?
Sure.
So, you're very chidey. Your daughter liked both designs.
I know.
So, Tevi, you made her.
Oh yeah.
You made her one of the.
Although right now I'm
she
not
liked.
quite sure that I'll take it over now.
So anyhow, I'll hold this to the camera. I think that's about as close as I can get. But I'm very happy with the design. And really what happens in your head when you look at something, if you have experience in this field, you know how to make it right away. You know what you're going to do to fabricate that ring. You're going to bring elements together. And I say, okay, well, we're going to make them straight first,
Yeah.
solder them at the shank together, then we can spread them and hammer them out.
I honestly didn't see it coming. I see all the wires and then cut into pieces and all sewed together and how you cut it up. And even when I'm hammering the fan out, all the finger here, it doesn't dawn on me until you're polishing it, just like voila moment come out. It's very beautiful.
Yeah. So,
And this is one of a kind.
this is your daughter, Alyssa?
Yes.
Hello.
Alyssa, you look so Western.
Really?
I expected to hear a Thai accent.
No.
It's gone.
Yeah, I have none. I have
So
no
where
Thai
have you been
accent.
studying?
In a suburb of Chicago, near the Skokie area. Yeah.
So you're going into computers too?
Yes.
Yeah. So what was the experience, in your own words, what surprised you here?
Well, I've never worked with this medium before. I've worked with a lot of different mediums, like just drawing and graphic design stuff, and like other elements as well. And like having to work with my hands with like also fire and like metals, it was like really interesting. Like I always wanted to do like welding and all that kind of stuff. So like actually doing it right now with on a small scale was really cool. And you also can just wear it right away, which is really cool.
She was on the floor stamping a lot. My God, it got away from me how many things she cut out. But look at that, isn't that a beautiful? That's like a lattice work of silver with all the punch outs.
That is very-
She punched
very
out all these
intricate.
little elements
That's
and
good.
then soldered them together into a ring. And the soldering is really delicate. Little circles next to each other, and they have to attach to each other. And then we had to figure out to make it her ring size, so we had to cut some away so it would come around as a circumference and touch itself, and that had to be just right to make her size 7 ring. And we did it. So I think that it's very difficult to see this on because it's so shiny and clean, but these are little circles put together. And this is the piece of silver that came out of, For you. And you're an artist. I saw
Yes,
your work.
yes.
She works with Illustrator and a computer. And her computer art is, you really know what you're doing with Illustrator.
Thanks.
I can't even remember the menus in Illustrator. So thanks for coming back to me
Thank
after
you.
21 years. Can you believe that? It's amazing.
Amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. I think if you could retire and be as happy as me,
Oh, you always happy guy.
right? Yeah.
Well, thank you for the time. Take Alyssa off the 3 hour of the Instagram and work on something organic.
Oh, good. Yeah, I'm very happy to have you, and you're a delightful family.
Thank you.
Really, I'm very pleased and flattered to have you come here and choose to have this.